Hey guys, welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric, and today we're going to talk about Major League Baseball's rules for the 2021 season. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook and Instagram. So on Monday, Major League Baseball and the Players Association came to an agreement that included some rules carried over from 2020 and a noticeable lack of some rules. We'll get into that in a little bit. So with COVID still being with us, that's the gist of what's going on here. The first thing, the season will be a full 162 games. You know, the owners wanted to push the season back a month and they wanted 154 games. The players want a full season because they don't have to play for a prorated salary. The owners, they took an L on this one. They wanted fewer games with COVID restricted crowds. You know, in California, if they're playing in an empty stadium, they're getting zero ticket revenue, okay? So the owners didn't want to do that, so they wanted fewer games. You know, a game where there's 5,000 people or nobody, the owners are losing money, and that's what they're trying to avoid. Then there's two more rules that are purely COVID related. I think they'll go away in time. And you have to look at it through a COVID lens. And once you do that, I think it makes perfect sense. The first one, 7-inning doubleheaders. You know, with COVID, there's probably going to be more cancellations than there otherwise would be if you're talking to just a rainout or something of that nature. So, knowing that that's likely, you go ahead and schedule 7-inning doubleheaders, and it makes it easier to get the games in without exhausting the players. You know, we saw that as a factor for the Cardinals last season. And it saves the pitching staffs, right? If you have, you know, what if a team has 35, even 40 games in a month because of doubleheaders? A team can't survive, you know, without using half their minor league pitching staff. And that's just silly. So cutting it to 7 helps you there. Also, the runner on second base at the top of each half inning, and once you get to extra innings. That is, again, meant to shorten the game. You know, you don't want marathon games, especially if you do have a doubleheader, or you don't want players in the ballpark, fans in the ballpark for 5 hours. You want the games to start, get done, get everybody out. There's still a little bit of that mentality with COVID to get the get in and get out type deal. And that's the thought here with getting extra inning games over with faster. You know, there's also some contact tracing improvements. They've adopted measures used by other sports, especially the NBA. That doesn't really relate to much on the field. There's two changes from the 2020 season, and they don't seem linked on the surface, but the owners have linked them. That is no designated hitter in the National League. You're also going to have no expanded playoffs. How are those linked? Well, the owners have decided that they want to negotiate by using the designated hitter and calling it a financial issue. And the argument here is that having a DH means one more bat in the lineup, aside from a pitcher. Well, that additional bat means one more roster spot, effectively, dedicated to a bat. And what they're saying, the owners is having the DH universally, that is lengthening careers, keeping more players at the big league level. By having the DH, we are paying you guys more money. That's what they're trying to say. So they are using that as a bargaining chip. Even though everybody wants it, the owners don't want it bad enough that they won't use it as a bargaining chip. All right? Because the owners want expanded playoffs. That's what they're trying to get here. Expanded playoffs means more playoff games, which means more games on TV. In theory, more ticket sales, more money for the owners with more playoff games. That's where they're at. So you have that going on. But the players, they do not want expanded playoffs. And their reasoning is that if the playoffs are expanded and stay at 16 teams, that's more than half the league. That means more than half the owners can look at their fans and say, we're a pretty good team. We don't need to make massive changes. We're a playoff team. Well, if you're a playoff team, you're not that terrible, in theory. So there's not as much pressure on the front office of those clubs to go out and pay players. So the players look at it as a way of owners being able to save money and not pay players. So of course the players don't want expanded playoffs for that reason. They want it to be more exclusive because if it's harder to make the playoffs, there is going to be more pressure put on front office and the owners by the fans. Our team was garbage. We haven't made the playoffs in however many years. You guys need to do something. And they're going to feel the heat and feel forced to go out and spend more money and pay players, which is what the owners are trying to avoid. So that's where we are. We've got all these rules in place. The takeaways. The owners and players really hate each other. I think that it's so cutthroat and brutal now because when the next collective bargaining agreement comes up, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. And I guess the thought is if you give an inch now, then it's going to be easier to cave later on when the entire CBA comes due. And that's, I don't know. It's going to be ugly and it's going to be filled with hate. Neither side is going to be negotiating in good faith as we would define it, even though they're just going to blame each other and say, oh, we want the game to go on. No, they don't. They all just want as much money as they possibly can. And what we're seeing with these rules, with the DH and playoffs, it's a precursor to that. So stay tuned because that's going to be interesting as the season goes on. Anyway, that is my explanation of the new rules for 2021. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you check us out as we preview the Cardinals as spring training gets going. And check us out for all your St. Louis sports needs. See you guys next time.